So this is my top 10 books. And now listen. So even though I took a lot of time figuring out what my top 10 books were, I do not have a definitive, this is my number 10, this is my number 9, number 8, whatever. The best I could do was a bottom 5 and a top 5. And then within that 5, it's just whatever. So first, we'll start with my bottom 5. If you made it my top 10, congratulations. It doesn't matter if you're 10 or 1. Congratulations. You did it. You did it. Coming in at number, well, whatever. Bottom 5. I read this one first in middle school, and then I made a promise to myself. I said, Sydney, you're going to read this every year for the rest of your life. And to little Sydney's credit, she did read it 4 years in a row. So, like, I did it throughout high school. So, there's something that should be said about that. But anyways, this will be The Goose Girl by Shannon Hale. So, it's about a princess named Anadori, and she is born with a gift. And her mom, the queen, does not like that. The queen is not a fan of this. And so she wants to get Anadori out of the kingdom. So when Anadori is like a teenager, she sends her away. She's sent off with Celia, her lady-in-waiting, and her guards, and they are headed off to this other kingdom. On the way there, though, Celia betrays Anadori, and these guards that she's paid off, they kill the guards that are actually there to help Anadori. And they are going to kill Anadori, but Anadori manages to escape and flee. When she gets to the kingdom that she was supposed to arrive at, though, she can't come out as the princess because Celia has already arrived in the kingdom and is claiming to be Anadori. She said her name is Anadori. She said she's the princess. And so Anadori's in the kingdom, but she's unable to reveal her true identity. And so she has to find a way to survive without her name, without her wealth, and whatever. To stick with the middle school theme, the next book is Hero's Guide to Saving Your Kingdom, which I do not have a physical copy of. I used to. I don't know what happened to it. I blame my mom, but I have the second and third books for some reason, but not the first. This book, it follows 4 princes who are the Prince Charmings of the fairy tale princesses that we know. So Frederick is Cinderella's Prince Charming. Liam is Sleeping Beauty's Prince Charming. Gustav is Rapunzel's Prince Charming. And Duncan is Snow White's Prince Charming. And this is like following all of these stories after the happily ever after. Something happens and the princesses, some of them go missing, some run away, some are like discontent. And so it's up to the princes, this band of Prince Charmings, they have to go and save the day. And the problem is that they're not exactly hero material. None of them. Not a single one of them is hero material on his own. It makes me laugh out loud as an adult. It's so funny. It's so cute. I'm due for a reread on that one. Once again, we'll just stick with the middle school theme. A lot of these bottom 5s are like middle school level books, but listen, they're so good. Oh my gosh, people were I read stuff besides middle school fantasy. It might not look like it right now, but I promise I do. Next book in my bottom 5, again, sorry, it's another middle school, but listen, if it's written well and it holds up to the test of time, which is me aging in this case, I'm gonna love it. I can't help it. It's one of my favorite series to this day, and that book is Fablehaven. This is about 2 siblings, Kendra and Seth, and they are sent by their parents to live at their grandpa's farm for the summer. And neither of them are excited about it because their grandpa's kind of cut off from the rest of like civilization. Like, there's no access to the internet out there. Seth and Kendra are both like early teenagers, and so they're not looking forward to this trip at all. However, they find out pretty early on that their grandpa has some secrets about his estate, about his house, and about his garden that he has never let on to the kids. And the kids happen to stumble upon this secret. This is a 5-book series, and all of them are wonderful. I would give the whole series 5 stars, and I think I do. However, this is the first one, and it is it's the one I think of when I think about this series, is this one in particular. Talk about just the fantasy world you wished you could live in when you were 13. You were like, I wish life was like this. That's this series. Kendra and Seth are living the life that I craved. I desperately wanted to live. And yeah, I was a loser. So maybe there's something to be said about that, but whatever. This one is a little bit opposite of the other ones I've talked about so far in my bottom 5 for the sake of those ones have been my favorites since I first read them as a child. This one I read last year. And so this is a very recent read and one I was not expecting at all to be in my top 10, let alone be a book I enjoyed. But here we are with The Count of Monte Cristo. Take a moment to appreciate this lovely, look how lovely this book is. My friend found this copy at a bookstore and she thought of me and she bought it and I love her for it. Well, I love her for other reasons, but we love her for this also. Count of Monte Cristo is about a man named Edmond Dante. And at the beginning of the book, you find out he is a sailor on this ship and he's poor. He lives with his father. Both he and his father are like almost not destitute, but they're pretty poor. But he is engaged to this beautiful woman, and you find out right away he's about to be promoted to captain of the ship. And it's going to come with a pay increase. He's going to be able to take care of his dad. He's going to be able to give Mercedes, the life that she wants. And he's just a good man. He's a nice, good man. And he tells the truth. He's honest. He thinks everyone is his friend. He's trusting to a fault, to the point where you're like, Edmond, maybe you should be a little more cautious about who you talk to. But he's just a nice guy. He loves people. He assumes everybody loves him. He assumes everyone is doing their best to be a good person. But that's just the setup of the book, because then 3 of his acquaintances, but they get together and they're like, wow, everything is really working out for Edmond. I hate that guy. And the others are like, yeah, me too. What can we do about it, though? And then one guy's like, well, actually, I have an idea. And that idea gets Edmond thrown in prison for a long time. So this is a story about revenge. You watch Edmond Dante turn from this just a swell guy, just a nice guy, into a cold-hearted, blood-hungry seeker of revenge is what he is turned into. Listen, I know it's big, it's huge, and I know that. And there is a part in the middle kind of section. When I first read it, I was like, what are we doing? But then once you know the whole story, you're like, oh, that was necessary. I did need to know that. But at the time, it does kind of feel like we shifted into a different story for some reason. And you're like, who are these people? Why are we following them? But I promise it's worth it. And this, guys, look at this nice copy that she got me. There's just like a bunch of quotes on the front and on the back. The one on the back is, there is neither happiness nor misery in the world. There is only the comparison of one state with another, nothing more. He who has felt the deepest grief is best able to experience supreme happiness. That's a banger of a quote, am I right? And then our last bottom 5 book. And remember, I'm calling it bottom 5, and that sounds bad, but this is still in my top 10. So again, this is a place of honor, even if people don't understand it. So this book is from someone who used to be, says his name right there. I was gonna be part of my reveal. Stephen King used to be my favorite author until several years ago, I don't remember how many, when I discovered a different author who you'll find out because he's in my top 5. But before then, Stephen King was my favorite author. I think he is an amazing author. I love the way he writes. I like his imagery is the most compelling to me. That's my favorite part of his writing is his imagery. But I think his stories are fantastic. I love, love, love his stories. Now, with that being said, I do also believe Stephen King is hit or miss. I think when his books slap, they slap hard. I'm on the floor. I've been slapped so hard. And then when his books fall short, it's tough. It's tough to get to the end of that and go, oh, okay, so I spent my time reading that one. But with that being said, This one I don't think is very many people's favorite, and I understand why, because this is so unlike most of his other books. And don't get me wrong, I love his thrillers. You may be seeing another Stephen King book return in the top 5. It's just a coming of age summer story, and that book is Joyland. Again, I don't think many Stephen King fans would put this in like their top 5 Stephen King books, and I get it. I really do get it. It's not like his other stuff, but there's something about this that is just so, it's the perfect summer read. So Joyland follows this college student named Devin who is just trying to make money over the summer, and so he works at this amusement park called Joyland. While there, he finds out that there is a kind of ghost story about Joyland, and it's like passed around the workers there. And I say that, and knowing it's a Stephen King book, you're like, oh, that's going to be really important. And it is important. The ghost story is important, but truthfully, it is about Devin, and it's about him becoming a man. He's a college student just like growing up. I don't know. It's not a thriller. This isn't a thriller to me. I would not consider this thriller. I don't know if others do. I don't. I consider this a coming of age story, and I flipping love it. We will return to the top 10 after this after what I'm about to do. This ad that's sponsored by no one, but no, I was gonna say no one but me. I'm not sponsoring this either. This ad that's sponsored by no one. So these two stories I'm about to talk about, they're not books. I don't classify them as books. It's a different genre than books. But one of them, it's my favorite. It's one of my favorite stories that I've ever had the pleasure of experiencing in any like format, written or like seen in video. So I felt like I would be doing a disservice if I did not include it, so I had to. And then the other one is not finished yet, but I'm loving it, and I was like, I have to talk about that one too. So the two outliers, the extra two, it's Pandora Hearts and The Case Study of Vanitas. I don't know how to pronounce this author's name, but it's right there. But there it is. That's the author's name. Don't know how to pronounce it, but she has written both of these series. So I don't know. I was gonna say I haven't read that many mangas. I've read a few mangas in my day. What's the plural of manga? Manga? Or is it manga? I've read a manga or two in my day, but she takes the cake for me with her stories, her characters. I love them so much. So first, we're gonna talk about, wrong one. First, we're going to talk about Pandora Hearts. So, Pandora Heart is about this boy named Oz Vesalius. And the story starts when he's about to turn 15. And everyone in the Vesalius family, on their 15th birthday, they go through this, like, it's this elaborate ceremony where they go to a clock tower and they get, like, knighted almost. It's just very ritualistic. It's for the ceremony of it. And so it's like the eve of his 15th birthday, and we're following him and his servant Gil, who was adopted by the family. He was like an orphan that they found in the streets. He has amnesia. So they basically adopt him into the family, and he becomes a servant for Oz. So not really hired. Anyways, in this world, something to know, there are these monsters called chains, capital C, and they're sort of like demons. They exist in this other world. It's called the Abyss. But humans are able to basically enter into a contract with a chain. And when they do that, the chain is brought into this world and can do the human's bidding. However, there's a catch, because the contract is written in the form of a clock that's tattooed on your chest. And every time you use that chain's power, the tattoo clock, it like ticks one mark further. And once the clock has completed a full circle, the human is then dragged into the abyss back with the chain. So anyways, back to Oz. It's his 15th birthday. He's going into this abandoned ancient clock tower, and they're doing this ceremony, and there's a prophecy about the clock tower. It's remained silent for hundreds and hundreds of years, but they're like, once the clock ticks, something amazing happens. And during his ceremony, the clock ticks. And so that's a really big deal. But no time to speculate on what the clock could be or on why it's a big deal, because these robed figures break into the chapel and they hold Oz down and they cast him into the abyss. They use chains and they're like, your existence is your sin, and so we got to take you to the abyss. So he is cast into the abyss at 15 years old. So, and this might sound like I'm spoiling a lot, but this is like literally, this is covered in, yeah, this is all covered in this first volume, and there are 25 volumes, 23 volumes. So I'm not spoiling that much, I promise. So Oz finds himself in the abyss, which is not what he was expecting. It's kind of a void, but there's all these like broken toys and weird creatures around. And he's like, that's weird. But he doesn't know how to get out. He's just a boy. He's just a kid. He doesn't know how to get out of here. But then he finds a chain. She just looks like a regular girl, but she's a chain. And she says, I can get you out of here, but the only way to do that is to enter into a contract with me. And so, eventually, he does decide to enter into a contract with this girl. Her name's Alice. And he enters into a contract with her. And because of that, he's able to break out of the abyss. So he comes back into the world, but now he is connected to this chain, Alice. I have to give you a disclaimer. If you have watched the anime Pandora Hearts, ignore it. Forget it. Pretend it didn't happen. Because like most animes, it followed the book pretty well up until, I don't know if either, like, they lost funding or they lost interest, and they're like, we're actually going to do our own ending. And that's happened before. They did it with Blue Exorcist. I think they do it constantly with anime, but they did it with Pandora Hearts. It wasn't a very popular anime, I don't think. And so the ending is, like, if you read the ending to this and then you watch the ending to the anime, you're like, oh, so that's a choice. I was actually, okay, guys, I'm so lame, but listen, here's some story. Here's a brief story about Pandora Hearts. You actually cannot buy this in English anymore. You can find copies on like eBay for, I don't know, $200, $300, which I don't have that kind of money to be spending. They only produced like a limited number of copies, and they're not making any more. And at the point where they stopped producing and they stopped being widely available, I had most of the series. I had up to, I could check right now, but I'm not going to. I think, don't quote me on this, I think there are like 23 books. Whatever it was, I had all but 3 of the books when I realized, because I was buying them like slowly, I was just like slowly accumulating them. And then I realized, oh my gosh, I can't get these in English anymore. So I did buy the last 3 books, but they are in French. And I see your next question coming. No, I do not speak French. I don't speak a lick of French. I tried it with Duolingo and it didn't work out. So I don't know French at all. So what I've had to do, and I'm willing, guys, this is how much of a loser and how much I love this series. It speaks to both, okay? I am going through and I'm whiting out all of the words in these last 3 books. And I'm finding the Google translation. And I am writing out the English translation. And so they're written in pen in my own handwriting. And I know what you're thinking. You're saying, Sydney, why don't you just find it online and read it that way? Well, dear audience member, that's how I read the series the first time, was I found it online, I read it, and I cried, and I loved it. That's why I started buying it, because I loved it so much. Just recently, as in, I think within like this year, maybe last year, you cannot find this online anymore. You can't do it. Maybe in a different language, but you can't do it in English. So Pandora Hearts, you cannot find it online in English. You cannot buy it in English for a reasonable price. So this is what I'm stuck with. I'm stuck with translating a translation of a Japanese story. But you know what? That speaks to how good the series is, because I'm telling you what, I'm willing to do it. I am 1000% willing to do it. This is one of the greatest series I've ever read in my whole life. Listen, if the premise didn't hook you, which it should have, the premise is interesting, but if the premise didn't hook you, some things that you need to know. The plot twists in this series, I was screaming. I would tell you to read it. You can't anymore, though. So maybe I'll make a video about this series. I cannot express to you how much I love this series. Deep breath. Now that that's done, we'll talk about this. Now, this one is going to be shorter because it's not done. And so I've read up to what they've released online. And now this series I'm trying to buy earlier because the same publishers are in charge of this series. So I'm afraid I'm also going to run out of English versions of these books. So I'm trying to buy these as they come out. I'm a little behind. But, anyways, we're trying. We're doing our best. So this is set in a kind of steampunk Victorian age world. The main setting is France. French, it's haunting me. In this world, vampires are kind of known to exist, but most people either don't really care or it's kind of on the hush hush. It's kind of like some people think that they're legends, even though they're in the kind of recent history, they used to live like together. Only recently, vampires, they left like the human world and went into their own kind of parallel world. And that's where the vampires mostly live, but they can cross over to the human side. But humans seem to have like, I don't know, it's not that big of a deal to them. But for the most part, vampires are on the DL. They're on the down low. Our main character that we first meet, not him. His name is Noe, and he is a vampire. He's traveling by this. It's a steampunk looking blimp type thing, and so he's on his way to Paris. And on the way there, he like meets this woman and they're chatting it up. And then she starts to fall ill and she's feeling a little sick. And she's like, well, don't worry, I'm on my way to see a doctor. And then a man breaks into the blimp. He lands on top of the blimp somehow and he breaks into the blimp. And he's trying to take this woman, but no way he's not having it. Because it looks like he's trying to kill her. This man who jumped onto the ship, his name is Vanitas. Eventually, you find out that he is a self-proclaimed doctor for vampires, even though he's a human. So he's just a full-blooded human, but he calls himself a doctor for vampires. He's like, nope, I'm actually here to cure vampires, which is not what Noe was expecting. But Vanitas has this, it's right there. He has this book, and it's called The Book of Vanitas. He actually named himself after the book. The book was not named after him, fun fact. And it's able to cure vampires who have lost their names. So names are a huge deal in this world for vampires. If you lose your name, it's like losing your soul almost, and you become like warped and evil if you lose your name. Recently, a lot of vampires have been losing their names, and no one knows why. But the only thing that can cure it is the Book of Vanitas, which this human has. And like a human, like it's weird, a human should not be in possession of the Book of Vanitas. You should be a vampire, but here we are. This human has it, and he's calling himself a doctor for vampires. So he does eventually cure the woman who was sick, who was a vampire that Noe was trying to protect. Noe is like very stoic but very naive and cute. Noe is just like a big softy cutie. We love him. We also love Vanitas, who's a brat. We love them both, and we love them together. So then Vanitas is like, okay, well, my job here's done. I'm gonna leave. And Noe is like, wait, I actually was looking for that book, and I have millions of questions. I must talk to you. And so he follows Vanitas off the ship. So you clearly know. So they're not like getting along, but it's like they're bickering in a way. It's so obvious. Like they're going to become friends. Like this is a story about their friendship. They're going to be best friends by the end of this. So why am I telling you all this? Why am I so convinced that this is going to be an amazing series? Well, first of all, because I've seen her do it with Pandora Hearts. But secondly, tell me why the first chapter of this book ends with Noe, and here I quote, that was the beginning. This is the tale of how I met Vanitas, and how we walked together, of all we gained and lost, and of how, at the end of that journey, I would kill him with my own 2 hands. Excuse me? I just fell in love with these two. I just fell in love with their banter. I just fell in love with how they interacted. And, I'm sorry, what was that? So I have no doubts that that series is also going to blow my socks off, which is why I've already started buying. So fun fact about me, I only buy books if I know I love them. I use my library, but if I love it, I want to own it. Case Study Vanitas, that is an exception because it's not finished, but again, I've explained the whole publishing thing, and also I'm pretty sure it's going to be amazing. So that was a brief interlude. Now we're back to our top 5. Again, my top 5 is not in any particular order, okay? Don't hold me to this. This is another book. I'm sorry, I have to have so many disclaimers. So this book, I read it for the first time in, I think, fourth or fifth grade. I was like young, like elementary school. And I really, really liked it. And even at that young of an age, I did not have a favorite book. Like, people would say, "Oh, you love reading. What's your favorite book?" And I like couldn't just like I was like, "I don't know. There's so many good books. Like, how can I pick one?" And so even at that age, I didn't know. But the answer I would always give was this book, because I was like, this is amazing. I have nothing bad to say about it. So even though it might not actually be my number one, I had no problem telling people it was my number one. So then, I got older. I was in college, and I was thinking about this book, and I was like, wow, that was such a good book. I really enjoyed it. I should read it again. I read it again, and I cried, and I was like, oh, this is one of those books that's good no matter what age you read it at. In fact, I liked it better as an adult because there are things and themes that I missed when I was, a child and reading this book. And that book is, can you tell? Can you see what it is? Okay, so let's try that again. So that is The Never-Ending Story. I believe it was originally written in German and then translated. Don't quote me on that. So I ordered a copy. I splurged on this one. I mean, it wasn't that much money, but it's a splurge for me. And I got a copy that has colored ink. I don't know if you can tell. You probably can't tell very well, at least. Okay, yeah, you kind of can tell. So in this one, some of the words are red and sometimes the words are in green. You'll find out in a second why. So this is about a boy. I think he's around 12 years old. He's young. He's a young kid, and his name is Bastian. And he is this like fat little kid, and he doesn't have a lot of friends, and he's kind of bullied. He's a nerd. He's like your typical nerd. He just loves to read. He likes to hide himself away and read. So he lives with his father, and at the beginning of this book, he gets in a fight with his father. And so he runs away from home, and he decides to hole himself up in the attic at his school. And so he's like, no one will find me up here. It'll be fine. And he takes with him this book that he got from the bookstore, and it's called The Never-Ending Story. So this book is special because when Bastian starts reading The Never-Ending Story, he actually enters the Never-Ending Story. He enters the book, and he's able to influence events as though he's a character in the book. The reason there are two different colored fonts, I know that's what you're wondering. I know it's the most important thing. The reason there are two different colored fonts is because when we're reading about Bastian in the real world, it's green. That's the green font. But when we are in the Never-Ending Story, it's the reddish font. This story is so good. Okay, now just like with Pandora Hearts, okay, hear me now. If you are saying to yourself, oh, I saw that movie. Stop that. Stop that. Forget it. It's even worse than the Pandora Hearts anime. Please erase all memory of it from your mind. Scrub it clean. I don't care what you have to do to forget that. It's not this. Do not think of that movie and be like, oh yeah, that's Never-Ending Story. No, that was something called The Never-Ending Story, and it stole a couple character names from this book. It is not. It is not at all what this book is about. This book is about family, and it's about overcoming your fears, and it's about becoming a likable person. This book is fantastic. Do not judge it by the movie. Don't you do it. Don't you do it. If you said, I hated that movie, that's great. This book is for you. If you said, I love that movie, I question your taste, but I'm telling you the book is better. I promise you the book is better. I cannot emphasize how much better the book is enough. Woo! So that's the first of my top 5. Oh my gosh. I can't be talking this much about each of my top 5s. This is embarrassing. I also don't have a physical copy of this. And that's not fair. I did. I don't know what happened to it. I think I may have lost it in the move. But that book is The Mysterious Benedict Society. There's this big test that's open to, it's saying gifted kids. And obviously, all these kids apply, or their parents apply for them because they believe that their kid is smart and deserves to have this top place or whatever. Test is super strange, has a lot of weird questions. But our main character that we're following, he manages to pass the test along with four other kids. And you find out that this man named Mr. Benedict, He's the one who organized this test. He's the one who is trying to find these gifted kids because he has a mission that he needs them to go on. This is like one of those books. There's a bunch of riddles, which I don't know, maybe not everyone's into that, but I love like riddles, and they're not super obvious. Like some of the tests that the kids go through at the beginning when they're taking the test, they are tests that require out of the box solutions, and each kid is able to come up with a different solution that works, but they all do it in different ways because they're all so different from one another. They're all gifted in very different ways. I've read it at least 3 times. I am due for a reread though. So I promised you that Stephen King would be making a comeback in my top 5, and this is it. This is my promise coming true. This is my favorite Stephen King book I've ever read. And again, I can't decide like a number 1 book of all time, but this is like obviously up there because I've got my top 5, and that's The Stand. So The Stand, again, I guess it's really not. I guess my 2 favorite Stephen King books are not like classic thrillers. And don't get me wrong, I love his classic thrillers, but this one is obviously not quite a thriller. I'm not sure. Well, it is a thriller and it's that big. So that's true. That's a good point. An apocalypse has ravaged the world and killed like 99.9% of the population. And only 0.1% has survived. Only 0.1% was immune. And so you're following this cast of characters in this world that now exists after this disease has ravaged the entire world. And so they're trying to build up civilization. And different people have different ways of going about building up this civilization. It's just a very clear cut good versus evil. Like literally the evil is like out towards the west, I think, and the good, they're congregating in the east. And it's kind of culminating into this final stand that's going to happen between these 2 camps of good and evil. I don't think I've read the abridged, but that's the unabridged is what I read, and I seem to hear from everyone that it's the better version, so that's the one I would also recommend because it's the one I've read. We're down to our final 2, and again, that doesn't mean they're top 2, although, to be honest, they probably could be, but I'm not giving numbers like I said I wasn't going to. So this book single-handedly made other books worse. This book ruined other books for me, and that book is The Book Thief. I have read this book 6 times, and I've cried 6 times. So this book, if you have been living under a rock, you don't know about it. It's set in World War II, and you're following our main character, Liesel, and she is a book thief. So you're following like her whole life, but it's told in terms of like what books she has stolen recently or what books are important to her. And the narrator of this book is death. But the reason this book has ruined other books for me is because the writing style of this book blew me out of the water. I love the way this book is written, the way things are described, the way words are talked about, because books and words and language are so important to our main character, Liesel, and that comes across in the writing. It's just, this book is everything to me. The way this book is written is everything to me. I can't read this book too many times. Now, I told you, Stephen King was dethroned, and Stephen King was dethroned by this man, Joe Abercrombie. This book, The Blade itself, I'm holding the physical copy up just so we have a physical representation, but any of his books could be up here. Like, this represents all of his books that I've ever read. I love the way this man writes characters. So, Stephen King, I love his imagery, I love his stories, I love his plots. Joe Abercrombie, don't get me wrong, his plots and stories are also amazing, but this man, he shines in his characters. His character work is unlike anything I've ever read or probably ever will read. Joe Abercrombie, I love the things that you do. The Blade itself, what is it about? I should probably talk about it because it is my physical representation. So this is set in a fantasy world, of course, but you're following a cast of characters like you do in most big sprawling fantasies like Game of Thrones and sure there are others that I could think of, but whatever. Shadow of the Gods. So one of the characters you're following, his name is Logan Ninefingers, and he's a Northman. He's a warrior, he's a fighter, and he comes to the city because he's escaping from Bethid, who is the self-proclaimed king of the Northland, and he's starting to take over North. The North used to be made up of tribes, but Bethid is trying to unite them into one kingdom. And the Northerners that don't like that, they're taken out. And so Logan is part of like it's a resistance. It's like a group of Northerners that are like, I don't like that. So that's one of our characters, Logan Ninefingers. Another one of our characters is Glokta. Glokta is the inquisitor for the Archlector. So he's like this big religious figure, and Glokta works for him as an inquisitor. And so that's just a nice way of saying he tortures people. He's a torturer. And Glokta is really good at his job. He's very good at torturing people. And the reason he is because he was tortured mercilessly, and it's left him in like permanent pain. It's mentioned several times. He's only 30, but he looks much older, and he feels much older because of the torture that he went through. But because of that, he's really good at inflicting it. So you meet him and his two like henchmen, Severard and Frost. Another character we meet is Giselle Luthar. He's a nobleman, and he is a brat. He is an absolute spoiled brat. He is so arrogant with unearned arrogance. He's arrogant, and he just like hasn't done anything to deserve the arrogance. Not that many people do, but he doesn't even have anything to back up his like arrogance. So through a series of events, these characters plus some side characters are pulled into this group, and they're going to have to travel across the world for this quest. And this band of misfit people together have to go and find this thing. Actually, Glokta's not part of it. Glokta stays in the city, so he's how we find out what the city's up to. So this is the first of a trilogy, but he has another trilogy. Most of his books are set in this world, in this same world, and he's just following different characters in that world. Fun fact about Joe, he doesn't like to follow the same characters once he's done with a book or series. So the trilogy in the First Law, you're following the same people. You're following Logan and Glokta and Giselle. But once the trilogy is done, you will hear about those characters in other series and books that are set in the same world, but you will never get a perspective chapter from them again. He doesn't. That's just not how Joe rolls. Another thing you need to know about Joe, and I say this reluctantly, his endings, you must prepare yourself. The endings are not always satisfying. I don't find them entirely satisfying. But now that I've gotten used to the way he ends things, I am more familiar with it. And so I'm not as blindsided when it ends and I'm like, excuse me, that's the ending? Because now I kind of understand he is like setting it up. He's not like done with the world. Like, I think in his mind, it's like he created this world, and this world will live on forever with or without these specific characters. Like, the world will continue, and we're supposed to realize that as the reader. I don't know if that makes sense, but that has helped me come to terms with his endings, because they are not, he's not going to wrap up a cute little nice bow on a tidy ending. It's just not what he's going to do ever. So that's my top 10, those plus 2. And, it's like subject to change, especially the bottom 5. So thank you for joining me on this journey to find my top 10 books. Have a great rest of your day. Bye-bye.